What if the single biggest obstacle standing between you and extraordinary financial success isn't your lack of capital, the current state of the global economy, or the industry you operate in? What if the real barrier is entirely psychological, a fundamental flaw in the way you identify problems, design plans, and execute goals? Most people look at self-made billionaires like Ray Dalio and assume that their massive fortunes are the result of unique genius, luck, or rare timing. They study the trades, they copy the stock picks, and they try to analyze the macroeconomic data. But if you sit down with Ray Dalio himself, or if you study his international best-selling book, Principles, he will tell you that the mechanics of the market are secondary. Dalio's multi-billion-dollar empire wasn't built on a single winning trade or a hidden analytical algorithm. It was built on a cold, systematic, and hyperlogical mental operating system. He discovered that life, business, and investing can be broken down into a machine, and that achieving any goal is simply a matter of mastering a specific five-step evolutionary process. The problem is that the average person operates on emotion, cognitive biases, and defensive ego barriers. When they face a massive failure, they look for external scapegoats, the government, inflation, or bad luck. They repeat the exact same behavioral mistakes decade after decade, permanently trapped in financial mediocrity. But the ultra-wealthy elite look at failures simply as data points. They view themselves as engineers standing outside of a machine, constantly tweaking the gears to optimize the output. In this video, we are going to unlock the exact psychological blueprint that built Bridgewater Associates from a small two-bedroom apartment into a $150 billion empire. We will deconstruct Ray Dalio's legendary five-step loop for hyper-performance, reveal how to eliminate the psychological blind spots that destroy 90% of retail accounts, and provide a step-by-step framework to apply this industrial mental system to your personal financial growth today. Let's look inside the machine. To understand why this five-step formula is so radically effective, we must first look at Ray Dalio's core philosophical breakthrough, hyperrealism. Dalio states that the most important principle you can ever adopt is to accept reality exactly as it is and to deal with it systematically rather than wishing it were different. The average person spends an immense amount of mental energy complaining about the harsh truths of the financial world. They get angry that the system is rigged, that inflation is eroding their purchasing power, or that corporate employment doesn't reward loyalty anymore. But a hyperrealist understands that these uncomfortable truths are simply the laws of nature. Dreams, combined with reality and absolute determination, equal a highly successful life. To achieve this state of high performance, Dalio created a continuous loop that you must run every single day of your life. It is a strict mechanical process consisting of 5 independent steps. It must be executed in order, and you can never mix the steps together. Step number 1, set clear goals. The machine begins with the absolute clarity of direction. You must know exactly what you are pursuing. Dalio's primary warning in this phase is that you cannot have everything you want. Life is a giant smorgasbord of choices, and choosing a goal means intentionally rejecting 100 other attractive options. The everyday investor fails step 1 because they confuse a goal with a desire. A desire is a first-order consequence, like wanting to buy an expensive luxury car or quit your job tomorrow. A goal is a deep, structural outcome, like achieving absolute capital sovereignty or building a compounding asset portfolio that yields $10,000 a month. You must prioritize your goals with brutal discipline. Furthermore, you can never allow yourself to eliminate a goal simply because you think it is unachievable from your current position. The moment you cap your goals based on your current limitations, you stop your personal evolution, set the target based on pure mathematical optimization, and let the machine figure out the execution. Step number 2, identify and don't tolerate problems. As you aggressively push toward your financial goals, you will inevitably crash into a wall. You will experience failure, market losses, corporate setbacks, or operational roadblocks. This is the exact inflection point where standard human psychology breaks down. Most people react to problems with emotional pain, denial, and frustration. Their ego steps in to protect their feelings, causing them to sweep the failure under the rug or blame someone else. But Ray Dalio states that pain plus reflection equals progress. A problem is not a tragedy. A problem is a structural signal that a gear in your machine is broken. You must identify these problems with absolute, radical honesty. If your investment portfolio dropped 20% during a market shift, you cannot pretend it was a random anomaly. You must look at it as a design flaw. And crucially, you must refuse to tolerate the problem. Tolerating a recurring financial issue is the psychological equivalent of watching a slow leak destroy the foundation of your house and doing nothing about it. Step number 3, diagnose the problems to get at their root causes. Once a problem is identified, the average person immediately tries to fix it with a quick, superficial solution. If they ran out of money at the end of the month, they try to solve it by working 5 extra hours of overtime. But Dalio warns that this is a fatal mistake. You must slow down and distinguish the proximate cause of a problem from its root cause. The proximate cause is the action that triggered the event. For example, I lost money because the tech stock market dropped. The root cause is the underlying behavioral defect in your operating system, such as, I lost money because I broke my risk parity rules and allowed emotional greed to overconcentrate 60% of my net worth into a single speculative asset class. Diagnosis requires looking into the mirror with absolute humility. It means examining your own psychological flaws, your lack of discipline, or your gaps in knowledge. You must diagnose the problem by describing the mechanical pattern of behavior, not the external circumstances. Until you identify the root cause, the exact same failure will continue to destroy your wealth under different names. Step number 4, design a plan to work around the problems. Only after you have a precise diagnosis can you move to step 4, the design phase. Dalio describes this step as writing a personalized movie script where you visualize exactly what needs to happen over time to bypass the root cause of your failure. Your design must be concrete, actionable, and trackable. If your diagnosis showed that your root cause was emotional, undisciplined spending, and chaotic capital allocation, your plan cannot be a vague promise to be better next month. Your design must be a mechanical system. You automate your savings deposit on the exact day your income arrives. You implement an automated fractional investing protocol into non-correlated global modules, and you set a calendar alert to rebalance your target risk percentages once every 90 days. You are creating a legalistic contract with yourself. You must design the system before you try to execute it. Think like an architect sketching a blueprint before a single brick is laid. Step number 5, push through to execution. The final step is the raw, disciplined execution of the plan. You can have the most beautiful goals, the most honest diagnoses, and the most sophisticated financial blueprints in the world, but if you do not execute with absolute, relentless consistency, your machine is worthless. Execution requires establishing an unshakable work ethic and establishing strict personal habits. Dalio emphasizes that good habits are nothing more than automated subroutines that run inside your brain, bypassing your daily emotional mood swings. When the market is crashing and the media is panicking, an everyday investor breaks their plan out of fear. But a hyper-performer executes the rebalancing protocol mechanically because the script dictates the action, not their emotions. You must track your daily progress against the metrics of your plan. If you realize you are failing to execute, you do not abandon the machine. You loop back to step 2, identify the execution failure as a new problem, diagnose its root cause, and redesign the gear. Breaking the 2 biggest barriers, ego and blind spots. To successfully run this 5-step loop and scale your wealth like an institution, Ray Dalio states that you must defeat the 2 greatest enemies of human psychology, the ego barrier and the blind spot barrier. The ego barrier is your brain's deeply ingrained defense mechanism that hates admitting mistakes, failures, and weaknesses. Your ego wants to be right more than it wants to find out what is true. When someone challenges your investment thesis or points out a flaw in your business design, your ego treats it as a personal attack, triggering an immediate reaction of anger and denial. To break this barrier, you must execute a profound mental paradigm shift. You must value finding out what is true far more than you value being right. You must develop a state of radical open-mindedness, actively seeking out the smartest people who disagree with your financial strategies so you can stress test your logic against their data. The blind spot barrier is the simple reality that, as a single human being, you cannot see everything. We all view the world through a limited lens based on our specific brain architecture, upbringing, and experiences. Some people are highly creative but disorganized. Others are deeply analytical but terrified of taking risks. If you rely entirely on your own brain to navigate the macroeconomic machine, your personal blind spots will inevitably lead you straight into a financial ambush. The corporate 1% do not rely on a single brain. Ray Dalio built Bridgewater on the principle of idea meritocracy and believability weighted decision making. He surrounded himself with elite operators and instructed them to brutally challenge his conclusions based on pure logic. You must do the same with your personal capital stack. Find mentors, use automated quantitative metrics, study historical data, and look for objective feedback loops that shatter your blind spots. Achieving extraordinary wealth is not a mystical art reserved for a lucky minority. It is an engineering discipline. Life is a continuous series of choices, failures, diagnoses, and optimizations. By stepping outside of your own ego, treating your personal finances as an industrial machine, and running Ray Dalio's 5-step evolutionary loop with relentless discipline, you eliminate the cognitive traps of the middle class. You stop reacting to the world out of emotional panic, and you start executing like an empire. Master your psychology, optimize your design, and scale your sovereignty.